I am as God created me. I am as God created me. I am as God created me. His Son can suffer nothing, and I am His Son. And I am His Son. I rest in God, I rest in God, I rest in God. Today I rest in God, and let Him work in me and through me, while I rest in Him in quiet and perfect certainty. In quiet and perfect certainty. I am as God created me. I am God's Son eternally. Today I lay aside all sick illusions of myself and let my Father tell me who I really am, and tell me who I really am. I rest in God. I am as God created me. That's our two review lessons, lesson 109 and 110 for today. And I'm Forgiveness Willie, teaching forgiveness from the Ozarks here in front of my bioaccumulator again. Teaching forgiveness from the Ozarks. I'm Forgiveness Willie. And I just wanted to say, I came out here, been watching these things, and you know, since I've been here, well, this morning anyway, I've seen honeybees, a bumblebee, and a hummingbird all eating on these nectar of this comfrey plant. So anyway, it's quite an attraction for the animals of the area. I see a butterfly over working on the lilac last of the blooms. Anyway, I noticed that in the those two sticks that are sticking up right there, and there's one over here, you can't maybe see just part of it. That's the last year's growth of the Celeste and a hardy Chicago fig. They've got new life coming up. I pulled the lettuce out away from them so the life could come on up. The new fig tree above ground, and I'm hoping it'll make figs this year. Okay, I am as God created me. His Son can suffer nothing, and I am His Son. I rest in God. That was our song. I rest in God. I rest in God today, and let Him work in me and through me while I rest in Him in quiet and perfect certainty. And lesson 110 review, I am as God created me. I am God's Son. Today I lay aside all sick illusions of myself and let my Father tell me who I really am. And yesterday when I was listening to last year's lesson 120, I had made mention of my friend Four Eagles who had made his crossing. And I had just come away from watching the news about the memorial service for St. Francis. 1 million people at that there in the Vatican, and come to make their last wishes. I don't know why they call it the last. He's more alive now than ever. As a matter of fact, I wanted to dedicate a word in this. I felt like I am in lesson 110. I am as God created me. I am His Son eternally. I put that in our song. And I'd say that in collaboration with Four Eagles and St. Francis. I felt like, you know, he's alive forever, and I felt like he kind of like can whispers in my ear that, hey, you know, he ran a good race. He spoke for the poor of this world and spoke for world peace. I remember one story that I liked about what he said was someone came to him. The official policies of the church were a certain way about certain people. I think they were talking about gay people at the time. And rather than talking about the theological position and the doctrinal ideas of the church, he said, "Who am I to judge?" What a good answer. Ever since I heard that, I'd always said, okay, St. Francis he's one of the children that's come to help save the world. Okay, anyway, I just had to say a good word for him and my brother Paul Curtis Stevenson, Four Eagle. Paul Curtis Stevenson, who went by the name Four Eagles. Okay, let's take we've read our lesson. Let's look at it again. For morning and evening review, I rest in God. And like I told you at one point when we did that lesson, I think maybe it was this year, I don't know if it was this year or last year, but I said, that's kind of my default lesson. It's the one I go to if I can't remember my lesson and I want it's time to do a lesson, and I forgot to put my card in my pocket and I can't recall what to think about, if it's like on the hour or throughout the day, whatever the lesson might be. I always use I rest in God, which is lesson 109, as my default lesson. It's like if I can't remember it, I go, okay, I'm just going to rest in God. and then I go look for it after I get a chance. But I rest in God. You can always use that. That's what I'm trying to say. You can cease from your labor, as was that Hebrews that talks about ceasing from our labor, entering into the Sabbath on a moment by moment basis. I rest in God. I rest in God today and let Him work in me and through me while I rest in Him in quiet and in perfect certainty. And lesson 110, I am as God created me. That'd be another good default lesson. I am God's son. Today I lay aside all sick illusions of myself and let my Father tell me who I really am. Self-realization. Let your Creator, your Father, tell you who you really are. Okay, let's see. And on the hour today, tell yourself, I rest in God. And on the half hour, say, I am as God created me. And be sure to do your at least 5 minutes when you get up in the morning and 5 minutes before you go to bed of quiet time. And asking God to teach you. Cease from your labors for that 5 minutes. Cease from your thoughts about who you are and what goals you have. Let it all go. Unless He's given you something to work on which today He does want us to come into that rest by saying, I rest in God and I am as God created me. Oh, and then cease from your thoughts. Let that kind of float around in your mind and do its work, and let the Holy Spirit have His way. Let's go back and take a look in we're ready for chapter 14. And this is for Wednesday's lesson. Lesson 120 is for Wednesday, April 30th of 2025. And we're going to start chapter 14, and we'll read the introduction paragraph and the first section, which is the conditions of learning. And I also wanted to mention one more thing about my lettuce behind me. It's got big enough where it's time to start thinning it out, and it's pretty much, I've eaten most of it, or eaten a lot of it. I grew way too much for just my little household. And it starts getting a little bitter as it gets older. And we really need to be planting it every couple weeks. I'm learning that more and more. And same way with any of your greens. Plant them fairly regularly so that you have them throughout the growing season. But I tried something new this time in these 2 circles around my figs. And I planted my lettuce and spinach and radishes, which are pretty much done now. I also planted carrots. And I'd forgot about it. I was pulling some of the lettuce, and I said, oh, well, there are some carrots growing here. And I think I've got 3 circles of carrots that when I get the lettuce off there, they'll be up. They're kind of starved of light, but they'll take off, I'm hoping, with getting a lot of sunlight. So I might have found a nice way to double crop carrots and lettuce, and when the lettuce is done, you let the carrots go ahead and finish out because they take longer. Okay, teaching for truth. Yes, you are blessed indeed. yet in this world you do not know it. But you have the means of learning it and seeing it quite clearly. The Holy Spirit uses logic as easily and as well as does the ego, except his conclusions are not insane. They take a direction exactly opposite, pointing as clearly to heaven as the ego points to darkness and death. We have followed much of the ego's logic and have seen its logical conclusions. And having seen them, we have realized that they cannot be seen except in illusions. For there alone their seeming clearness seems to be clearly seen. Their seeming clearness seems to be clearly seen. That's the illusion, the ego. Let us now turn away from them and follow the simple logic by which the Holy Spirit teaches the simple conclusions that speak for truth and only truth. Let us now turn away from the ego's logic and follow the simple logic by which the Holy Spirit teaches the simple conclusions that speak for truth and only truth. Section Roman numeral 1, the conditions of learning. If you are blessed and do not know it, you need to learn it must be so. That sounds pretty logical and light. It makes me happy to think of that. If you are blessed and do not know it, you need to learn it must be so. The knowledge is not taught, but its conditions must be acquired, for it is they that have been thrown away. You can learn to bless and cannot give what you have not. If then you offer blessing, it must have come first to yourself, and you must also have accepted it as yours. For how else could you give it away? That is why miracles offer you the testimony that you are blessed. If what you offer is complete forgiveness, you must have let guilt go, accepting the atonement for yourself, and learning you are guiltless. How could you learn what has been done for you, unknown to you, unless you do what you would have to do if it had been done for you? Let me read that sentence again. How could you learn what has been done for you, unknown to you, unless you do what you would have to do if it had been done for you? In other words, in order to know the Spirit and its fullness, its grace, its joy, its happiness, you've got to let go of attack. You've got to let the condition of learning be set. You know, an innocent world's what you've got to be willing to see in order for it to come into focus. That'd be a good example of that anyway. Paragraph 2. I'm not saying that's all he's saying there, but that is certainly an application. Paragraph 2. Indirect proof is needed in a world of denial and without direction. You will perceive the need for this if you realize that to deny is the decision not to know. The logic of the world must therefore lead to nothing, for its goal is nothing. If you decide to have and give and be nothing except a dream, you must direct your thoughts unto oblivion, to unknowing, to oblivion, to not to exist any longer. So if you decide to have and give and be nothing except a dream, you must direct your thoughts unto oblivion. And if you have and give and are everything, and all this has been denied, your thought system is closed off and wholly separated from the truth. This is an insane world, and do not underestimate the extent of its insanity. This is an insane world, and do not underestimate the extent of its insanity. There is no area of your perception that has not been touched, and your dream is sacred to you. That is why God placed the Holy Spirit in you, where you placed the dream. Paragraph 3. Seeing is always outward. Were your thoughts wholly of you, the thought system you made would be forever dark. The thoughts the mind of God's Son projects or extends have all the power that he gives to them. The thoughts he shares with God are beyond his belief, but those he made are his beliefs. And it is these, and not the truth, that he has chosen to defend and love. Our misplaced loyalty, we valued incorrectly. We value the illusion instead of reality. Therefore, we need to get our conditioning set up properly again, so that knowledge can come back to us. As long as we're thinking we live in a world where we're vulnerable, well, then we're going to respond to things as if we could be attacked, and that's what we need to learn to not do. Okay, and it is these and not the truth that he has chosen to defend and love. Let's back up. Paragraph 3. Seeing is always outward. Were your thoughts wholly of you, the thought system you made would be forever dark. The thoughts the mind of God's Son projects or extends have all the power that he gives to them. The thoughts he shares with God are beyond his belief, but those he made are his beliefs. And it is these and not the truth that he has chosen to defend and love. They will not be taken from him, but they can be given up by him, for the source of their undoing is in him. There is nothing in the world to teach him that the logic of the world is totally insane and leads to nothing. Yet in him who made the insane logic, there is one who knows it leads to nothing, for he knows everything. Wow. So in other words, if you're using the world to make your assessment, you'll not be able to tell the truth. But if you learn to look inside and tune in with the Holy Spirit's guidance in you, you'll begin to learn the truth, and you'll learn to set the conditions for learning the truth, or remembering who you really are. Paragraph 4. Any direction that would lead you where the Holy Spirit leads you not goes nowhere. Gets that? Any direction that would lead you where the Holy Spirit leads you not goes nowhere. Anything you deny that he knows to be true, you have denied yourself, and he must therefore teach you not to deny it. Undoing is indirect, as doing is. You were created only to create, neither to see nor do. These are but indirect expressions of the will to live, which has been blocked by the capricious and unholy whim of death and murder that your Father does not share with you. Wow, to believe in death and murder? Murder, attack. Anytime you're angry with someone, you're basically practicing the concept of murder. So, when you take it to that extreme, you say, well, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. But you already are doing that with thoughts, just by being angry with someone. You're murdering them. Okay? You have set yourself the task of sharing what cannot be shared. Those attack thoughts can't be shared. And while you think it possible to learn to do this, you will not believe all that is possible to learn to do. Got to set up the right condition. Value your brother's innocence and your own. Okay, and the last paragraph finishes this section for today, paragraph 5. The Holy Spirit, therefore, must begin his teaching by showing you what you can never learn. His message is not indirect, but he must introduce the simple truth into a thought system which has become so twisted and so complex you cannot see that it means nothing. I laugh every time I read Course in Miracles. There's just so much humor in it to me. And I got to thinking, when I grow up, I want to be a divine comedian, where I can just help people laugh their way into the kingdom of heaven. And I think that actually, I kept thinking one of these days I'm going to finally get there. And now I got to thinking, really, It's the listener that needs to be there to see the joy, to see the happiness, to see the humor. So I'm just encouraging you to lighten up and see the truth and make you happy. Sometimes when we look back at things we did in the past, and it makes us sad. But when you look back and see something that you really have outgrown, that's not really you, it was not a good representation of your reality, and you see it, well, it shouldn't make you unhappy and sad that you made a mistake. You should be happy that you can see that you made a mistake so that now you don't make it anymore. We want to be happy learners is what I'm trying to get at. Anyway, let's go ahead and read the last paragraph, 5. Again, I haven't quite finished it. Let's start at the beginning. The Holy Spirit, therefore, must begin His teaching by showing you what you can never learn, because you're just going to remember. You don't have to learn the kingdom of heaven. You are the kingdom of heaven. You just need to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. His message is not indirect, but He must introduce the simple truth into a thought system which has become so twisted and so complex you cannot see that it means nothing. He merely looks at its foundation and dismisses it. Oh, it's based on the idea that you're vulnerable. It's based on the idea that guilt is real, that someone did something wrong, or that God doesn't love you, or that your brother doesn't love you, or that you don't love your brother, or all kinds of things. He just looks at the foundation. It's, it wasn't based on the wholeness of spirit, the goodness of God, the invulnerability of God. He merely looks at its foundation and dismisses it. But you who cannot undo what you have made, nor escape the heavy burden of its dullness that lies upon your mind, cannot see through it. It deceives you because you chose to deceive yourself. Those who choose to be deceived will merely attack direct approaches because they seem to encroach upon deception and strike at it. We have to come in roundabout way. But we're going to learn that only the truth is true and that we can just accept that. Okay, let's see what's going on around the world today. Let's see, it's Beltane Day. The Wiccan and Beltane, I think is how it's pronounced actually. Beltane, Wiccan and pagan festival, kind of bringing in the day before May Day. St. James the Great Day. I guess Beltane is actually May Day, isn't it? Anyway, it's what I could find online. I guess a lot of people started celebrating it today, or maybe the day before. I'm not sure. St. James the Great Day. Some Christians celebrate today is St. James the Great Day. James the disciple, or the apostle. St. St. Walpurgis Night, or Walpurgis Day. It's a St. Walpurgis. Let's see. It continues for Yom HaZikaron and Ridvan of the Baha'i. Ram HaZikaron is the Jewish celebration or remembrance of those who have died. Day of the Child and Honesty Day. Isn't that nice? Sometimes kids can say the funniest things. They're just honest. They haven't been trained to bite their tongue when they see something. They just speak it. And that's why Jesus told us to be like little children. Don't judge what people, be kind and but be open and honest like little children. Honesty Day and Day of the Child. Spank Out Day, day to reconsider. You instead of using what they call corporal punishment, spanking your children, instead consider that what you teach them by spanking is more detrimental than what they did. It'd be much better just to sit and have a nice talk with them, maybe remove some kind of liberty from their lives until they learn that when you abuse your freedoms, you lose your freedoms. Maybe that might be a good approach, but hopefully you've gone beyond the thought where you thought you needed to spank a child. They'll just use force in their life to get what they think they need to do, or to teach other people a lesson. It's just that guilt mentality keeping alive. I had a great story I wish I had time to tell you about the day I learned that you don't speak child. God spoke to me in a dream, and I woke up and came into the living room where the mom had already had breakfast, and I was reveling in this dream where God had said, "Do unto others as you do unto me." And I had just spanked and one of the kids in the dream, and Jesus said, "Do unto me as you do unto them. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you'd have do unto me." So I said, "Mom, here, spank me the way you'd spank one of the kids if they were really, really bad." And so we had a paddle. She pulled off the wall and said, "Well, pull your britches down." So I showed my butt cheeks, and she gave me a big old swat. All the kids laughed, and it hurt. I said, and she was going to give me two. She said, "You want me to give you a spanking the way that I would if to demonstrate?" And I said, "No." And at that point, I didn't get the whole message. I said, "Well, from now on, let's just do one spank." That was plenty. But we never gave another spanking after that. Somebody came to me and matter of fact, it was my teacher Charlie's oldest daughter. And she said, "Hey, I just want to leave you guys when we move. I want to just give you the reminder that spanking's not you're teaching your child to use force to get what they want." I thought, well, that's some good advice. Okay, what else do we have going on today? Guide Dog Day, Therapy Animal Day, and Shelter Pet Day. Prepare-a-thon Day for you preppers. Stop Food Waste Day. And out of edible landscaping, we've got the Heartnut, the Japanese walnut, which it's a juglans, the same as Juglans nigra, your black walnut, but it's the Ailantifolia. And it says of the Heartnut, or the Japanese walnut, in edible landscaping, an easy to grow, hardy spreading, attractive tree with abundant foliage, bears early, a sweeter, easier cracking nut than black walnut, a good shade tree with a spreading habit that's prettier in the landscape than black walnut, susceptible to walnut bunch disease. We've grown Heartnuts for 15 years and have not noticed the disease. Self-fruitful, 20 to 35 feet, recommended spacing, zones 5 through 8. Pretty big size tree. Okay, well, let's close with our song today and be about your Father's business. Oh, and our word for peace was from the Oglala people of Australia, and it's Erray. Erray be with you. I am as God created me. I am as God created me. I am as God created me. His Son can suffer nothing, and I am His Son. And I am His Son. I rest in God, I rest in God, I rest in God. Today I rest in God, and let Him work in me and through me, while I rest in Him in quiet and perfect certainty. In quiet and perfect certainty, I am as God created me. I am God's Son eternally. Today I lay aside all sick illusions of myself and let my Father tell me who I really am, and tell me who I really am. I am as God created me. I am God's Son eternally. Today I lay aside all sick illusions of myself and let my Father tell me who I really am, and tell me who I really am. And I threw that word eternally in there, and I felt like it was something that St. Francis and Four Eagles shared with me to do. And Erray be with you. I rest in God. I am as God created me. Erray.